way that, or big way that Nevil Shute has influenced my life is his use of connection and serendipity. In his books, especially Trustee from the Room comes to mind, your deeds pay you back, right? He lives this small little life, but he answers all his mail. And in the end, he gets a great adventure. Karma, getting what you deserve, whatever you want to call it. Serendipity, meeting the people as he goes along. So Nevil Shute brought me to Restoring Harmony. But it also brought me, helped cement a new relationship with my husband. When we first met, he was living in Tennessee and I was living in Oregon. We had a mutual friend, and so the first few months we spoke on the phone and talked by email. And as you do when you're a reader, you say, well, what do you like to read? Well, I like this. What do you like to read? Well, I like Nevil Shute. Who? What? Okay, we gotta start educating you. Nevil Shute. So I go, the first thing I did was I went to Powell's books and I thought, you know, this guy, I have a good connection with him, and he's sort of spiritual in the same way. He thinks like me. So Round the Bend, I think that's a great one to start with. I mean, it's a good test. It'll weed him out if it doesn't work for him. Right? So I buy a copy of Round the Bend, and I send it to him. And the book he recommended to me was a book of photographs. And so I went to the library, and I couldn't check them out, but I sat and I looked at them all, which impressed him. So I think he felt like he better read this Nevil Shute book. So he read the Nevil Shute book, and when he was done, he said, wow, that is the best book I've read. I love this guy. And he said, and I almost didn't read it. And I said, what? Why not? And he said, well, the cover. And I said, what are you talking about? Because in my brain, the covers all look like these black ones because I hunted for them forever, right? There is no other cover in my head. Well, apparently, when I went to Powell's, I just picked the only one off the shelf and mailed it to him, and it was the Pulp Fiction version with the woman in the little sarong thing, flowers in her hair, and the big beefy man leaning over her like this. And he looked at that one, and he thought, oh my God, what is this woman sending me? But he managed to get past it, so that helped with that. So we were lucky there. And so if you're recommending the book to people you don't know, make sure you give them one with a more generic cover or an explanation. Another bit of serendipity, it's quite an amazing story really, is when this book, Restoring Harmony, my agent had sent it out on submission and editors were reading it. And my friend came to visit me from Tennessee, and she came, and when it was time to leave, I brought her down to Victoria to catch the Clipper like I did this morning and come over to Seattle and go back that way. And she was a teenager, she was 19, and she had read an earlier draft of the book, so she was familiar with it. And we walked down to the harbor front. I don't know if you've been to Victoria, but they have musicians playing along the harbor front. And as we came down the stairs, there was a young girl, 15 or 16 years old, with wild curly brown hair, playing the fiddle like you wouldn't believe. And Chelsea looked at me and I looked at her and she said, there's Molly from your book. Because the main character in Restoring Harmony is a 16-year-old fiddle player from Western Canada with wild curly hair. And this is Sarah. I stayed at her house last night. She was quite pleased to be part of the presentation. The reason she's part of the presentation is because we just threw some money in her case and we walked on. I mean, what are you going to say to her, right? And so then I came home and I said to my husband, you'll never guess what happened. We saw Molly busking in Victoria. And he said, oh, that's nice. And I told him the story. And he said, that's very cool. And 3 days later, well, my husband, I guess I should explain, is a photographer, and he does a photo called the Daily Photo Blog. And he takes a picture of our island every single day, and he posts it on this blog. And all around the world, people are doing this for cities and towns and their neighborhoods. And so you can go on there and you can find like 2,000 different blogs and people posting every day. And about 3 days later, he said, come here. And I come into his office and he said, is this your fiddler? And there on the Victoria photo blog was Sarah. And this, whoever does the Victoria one, had taken pictures of her and put her name up and put links to her. And I just thought, well, this is serendipity. I must know this girl now. So I hunted her down on Facebook and I sent her an email and I said, this is a little strange, but I wrote a book and you're in it. And she said, well, that is a little weird. And I said, you know, but let's get your parents involved. involved, so it's not like some adult stalker woman, you know, stalking. So I spoke to her parents, and in the end, after several emails, we ended up meeting in Victoria. And now Sarah and her mother and father are three of our very closest friends. We see them regularly, and my husband, who is a musician, plays with Sarah just several concerts a year. But the coolest thing about Sarah and her fiddle is that in the book, Restoring Harmony, which she actually ended up being an expert for, she found some mistakes and fixed them for you before it went to press. But most of the tunes are real tunes, and there's a fictional tune called Brianna's Real. And when Sarah found out it was fictional, she wrote it. So now it exists. You can hear it on my website. And in fact, she and my husband went in and recorded several tunes and songs from the book, which are on my website. And then she starred in the trailer too. We made a book trailer, like a movie trailer, and my husband took all the photos. So that's another serendipitous thing, and I think that was Nevil Shute to Restoring Harmony to Sarah. And then there's one last little subconscious thing that I didn't know about until much later, after the book had already come out. I was reading Trustee again, and I discovered that in the book, the boat is called the Maribel, and in Restoring Harmony, there's a boat called the Maribel. And John Townsend wrote a book about a young girl who lives on an island called the Islanders, and her name is Molly. And I hadn't read that book in 20 years either. My husband happened to read it. He said, you know, John's island girl is Molly too. And I said, really? So they both managed to get in my book without me even knowing. So the last thing, I'll just finish with this. A friend of mine is a literary agent, and she recently had a contest on her website, and I entered it. And the contest was to take books off your shelf and create a poem with just a few adjoining words here and there. And since this event was coming up, I went ahead and wrote my own poem, and using Nevil Shute titles. So I'm going to read it aloud to you. And this is the picture that we took. It's called Requiem for a Storyteller. What happened to the corvettes beyond the black stump is most secret. Tossed in the wet, the seafarers made landfall on the beach. As if following the Pied Piper, they walked the lonely road to a town like Alice. So disdain. In a ruined city, there is no highway, no pastoral scenes, no rainbow on the rose. Only ordeal. Around the bend, Finland the Good is restoring harmony. We have a little poem contest here at the bar, or back in the room. I think you all know the titles. You should start making up your own poems. And yeah, so make up some more, and we'll play around at lunch or something. So I guess that's my final presentation. Did anyone have questions?